So let me get back to this other cool thing that we do. We'll play 4 games with whatever doubles teams were on the court. Doesn't matter what. We'll play 4 games where the player has to poach and the returner has to hit cross court. Can't go down the line because you know the player's poaching. You have to hit a cross court. Because so many players, especially on the girls level, they don't learn opportune times to poach, or they poach at the wrong time and they end up. So this is a great drill to have 4 service games where the returner knows the person's poaching and the net player of the server is always poaching on the first shot. After that, they play the rally out. So it's very interesting when you make those 4 games, how these kids start to look at their return and they see how a good low return cross court, even though the person's poaching, is still a pretty offensive shot. And the person poaching starts to understand what kind of serve was better when they poached, body serve, inside and inside ball, and so on and so forth. Now, we also play 4 games where the returner has to hit the ball down the line and the volleyer has to stay and hit the volley. So again, it sets up that oftentimes we see that down the line shot, even though we don't teach hitting down the line intentionally other than in certain circumstances, but it does teach the volleyer to put that ball away, or when they do go down the line, what shot is more effective.
Yeah, let me get into that for a moment. So we have this thing called pop their bubble. So when you are facing a team that poaches a lot, what I have my players do is once per game, hit the return right at the net person. And what that does is it plants the seed that if I poach, they might be hitting right here at me. And I also teach them if that person takes off to also hit the ball right at them. So they're not getting a ball that they can stretch to. They're getting a ball right in on them, and that's a lot less comfortable to poach on. But a couple of good bubble pops, and they tend to start staying home.
Yeah.
So,
let me add the final component. We also play 4 games where they have to lob down the line. Mm-hmm. And the player at the net can't leave their position until that ball has been hit by their opponent. So otherwise they're backing up, trying to get the overhead. But those are 4 ways to look at how to teach your players more than just a standard cross-court return, play it out, see if you can get a floater, that kind of thing. Also, we teach a lot of angle volleys, and it just plays into our strength of doubles because our players know what shots parlay into usually a winning. We also train our players to hit through the net man. We have a joke that says if you take a volley and go through the net man and hit their ankle or hit their knee, hit their leg, they get an ice cream. We're not trying to hurt our opponent. We're teach our players that's the best place to hit the ball, because if you try to avoid your opponent, you run the risk of hitting the ball wide or back to the deep player or giving them an easy shot. So our players know that that's the most ideal shot if they have a ball high above the net and they're hitting that put away volley like that, say this position here. And then we teach a lot of angle volleys when the ball is below the tape, that they learn that, okay, I can't go through the net man, but I do have another shot. I can go on a sharp angle cross court for a winner. So those are just a lot of things.
I had a team captain who asked me, hey, coach, can we give them free Wilson tattoos?
Yeah.
and then another thing I like to say is hit the ball very close to them. So if it hits their shirt, it didn't actually hit them. It just hit their shirt, so you can hit it very close to them. We just don't want to go chest high and above, right?
No, we don't encourage that head hunting. Right. Exactly.
Right. No, that's no good. So now also I wanted to get into a game that I play called Kamikaze, which is similar to your game that you play. But we play it where if the net person touches the ball, their team can't lose the point. So the serve goes in off of the return. If the net person goes and simply touches it, then their team can't lose. So if they don't touch it, the point continues. And what it does, it helps them to realize exactly how far they can go and be successful. Because they'll start to measure where is it going off the edge of their racket, because then that's obviously too far. but it gives them confidence knowing that they can't fail. They can't lose the point because they were aggressive. And that's been a really helpful thing to do. Another thing that we do, and I think I mentioned this earlier, is at first we'll play one bounce doubles where they're allowed to let the ball bounce only one time after the serve bounces, each team. And then my better teams will play no bounce doubles. And it's a really amazing how much more aggressive they get to go take the ball out of the air. And when we're playing our large group games, sometimes that's one of the alternate things that we do is we'll require them to take a volley out of the air. So they really have to move and not let it bounce. Because that's a huge part of creating an advantage, is taking away time and space from the opponents by taking the ball out of the air rather than letting it bounce.
Yep. I love that. That's a great additional facet to teaching your doubles. I see so many girls, especially net girls, like, I'm gonna no.
Right.
and they never learn to pull the trigger, and so by forcing them to take the ball out of the air like your drill, or where we're forcing them to poach, which is both those type of games, or where they're forced to do certain things, they start to become comfortable with the uncomfortable and familiar with the unfamiliar. So keep in mind, these are just some great ideas to make your doubles teams that much better.
Yeah, in the next video, we're going to talk about some pre-match routines. And part of what you'll do in your pre-match routines is you'll have these mantras, these things that you talk about to remind them of the skills that they learned in these practices so that you can perform better.